Hello everyone and welcome to this week's podcast. Today I have Melissa Rule with me. Melissa is the head of the Baptist Union of Victoria's Hub's communication team and our events team. Melissa has been with us in the BUV Hub for around about 12 years, now 11, 12 years, so a fair bit of time. Once Melissa starts talking, you may think, I know that voice. I've heard that voice before. Well, you've heard that voice because Melissa usually does the introductions to these podcasts, but today she's my special guest, and you'll realise a little later on why she's my guest after I share the reflection. But firstly, I'd like to welcome you, Melissa. It's great to have you on the podcast, and I'd like you to share with us maybe a little bit about your role as the head of the communications team and the events team, just what you do, and maybe one thing that you enjoy about the role.
Thanks, Daniel. It's great to be here today on the other end of the podcast. I have been here for quite a long time at the BUV. That's because I love my role and love serving the churches here and the agencies of the wider Baptist Union. Our role as communications team and events team is, I think, fairly crucial, is to communicate the vision, communicate all essential information, operational information, training information, and things like that out to our stakeholders. And I think it's something that we enjoy and something that's quite important as we have a lot of things that we need to make sure our pastors, our leaders, our churches know about. And so that's something we really enjoy. I think I have loved working with the team that I have, but also with further afield with the agencies as well, and the churches, just getting to know people, getting to know their stories. We actually love telling stories. That's one of the things that I think makes a big difference to people, hearing people's stories. So yeah, that's probably the thing I enjoy the most.
Fantastic, and it's great having you in the team. You're a great contributor to the team, and being here for 12 years, you've made a massive impact and difference in the broader Baptist community here in Victoria. So thanks for coming along and agreeing to being on our podcast today. Over the past few weeks, we've been reflecting on hiking or walking as a metaphor for our conversation around our faith and discipleship journey. I'd like to continue that on for one last episode today. The aspect of hiking I want to reflect on today is pack carrying. In the hiking community, there is an unwritten rule that you can fill your pack with whatever you want to put in there. You can take whatever luxury items you want to take on your hike, but the one rule is you have to carry your own gear. Now, it's generally understood that the lighter your pack, the more enjoyable the hike. So most hikers try to reduce their load as much as possible. You generally have three types of people on multi-day hikes. Those who we call ultralight hikers. These hikers pack the bare minimum gear and either are willing to forgo comfort or spend a lot of money on specialised ultralight gear to make their hike more comfortable. Then there are those who go as light as possible but take some luxuries with them, and they're not willing to spend too much money on the super light gear. These folk aim for a mid-range weight that is bearable to carry. Then there are the hikers who value comfort and luxury, or can only afford or borrow heavy gear. Their pack seems to be very, very heavy and quite a burden to carry over a number of days. Regardless of pack preference, the general rule is you pack it, you carry it. However, from time to time, hikers need to help each other by taking some of the weight of their fellow hikers. This may be due to injury or other unforeseen circumstances that make it hard for a person to carry their own load. In this case, most hikers are willing to lend a hand to their fellow hikers and take some of their burden. The Apostle Paul talks about something very, very similar in Galatians chapter 6. In verse 5 of chapter 6, Paul, talking about the Christian faith journey, says everyone should carry their own load. In other words, you pack it, you carry it. You are responsible for carrying your own lunch. When it comes to our faith journey, we need to take personal responsibility for our spiritual well-being and growth. However, right at the beginning of the passage, he tells us that when we come across a sister or a brother who is overwhelmed by the burdens of life, someone weighed down by sin or temptation, grief, sadness, or something else, we need to take some of that burden off that person and walk alongside them, restoring them back into spiritual health and into a fully functioning member of our community. He says, when someone is overwhelmed with a burden, with the burden that they are carrying themselves, we should take some of their load and relieve the burden. Listen to what Paul says in verse 1. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. He goes on to say in verse 2, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. I think it's important to note that in this passage, Paul doesn't talk to us about the person's sin. He doesn't elaborate at all about what sin it is that this person is caught in, just that it has become a load that is unbearable for a brother or sister to carry. So it seems to me the emphasis of the passage is not on the sin, but on our or the community's response to the person's plight who is weighed down in life for one reason or another. In this case, it was sin. In essence, Paul is saying, if we are authentic disciples of Jesus, walking in step with the Spirit, we will help lift the burden of those staggering under the weight of life, be they tough situations, circumstances, or even sin. When we do this, he says, we are fulfilling the law of Christ, which primarily refers to loving one another and living a generous life towards one another. There are two things that I want to note here when it comes to sharing the burden of others. The first point is that sharing the burden of others should be temporary. It's temporary because the goal is to restore the person back to full health. So we temporarily take some of their burden and get this, gently, Paul says, gently, that is, with kindness and humility, journey with this person on the road to restoration so that they can pick up their pack and carry it the rest of the way on life's pilgrimage. The second thing is this, we can't carry two packs. We can just relieve the weight by taking some of the gear. I like to think of this in terms of a spotter helping someone lift weights at a gym. The job of a spotter is to help the weightlifter lift a little more and do a few more repetitions than they could by themselves. The spotter can't take all the weight of the person who's pumping weights. Otherwise, they would break their back. They would do damage to themselves. When we carry someone's burden, it's not about doing everything for them or giving up all of our time, all the big things that we think it might be in our life. Rather, it may be small things. It may be something as simple as helping them sort of by giving them a listening ear or grabbing a coffee with them, speaking words of encouragement, praying, making a meal. There's a whole range of small things that we can do to help relieve the load and the burden that is weighing people down as they journey through life and faith. Many, many small things. I think the more we do this for one another, the more healthy our church communities will become and the deeper our relationships will be with one another. And we will become, I think, indeed, more attractive to the world in which we live as people around us see and experience our love and generosity towards one another. And so, Melissa, with that reflection in mind, this is why I invited you, because I know that maybe, I don't know how long it is, maybe
Nearly 6.
No, 5 or 6 years, you've been carrying a fair bit of burden yourself, a fair bit of weight that's weighed you down in your life, an unexpected weight. And before that, there was some health, which is health challenges, which is also another weight for you to carry throughout your life, one in which you've got used to, but still a weight nonetheless. And so I'd wonder if you'd like to explain the type of weight that's come upon you and how you've found others along the journey helping you bear that load.
Yeah, sure. I have had a pretty full-on 6 years and some experiences even prior to that. So nearly 6 years ago, in December of 2018, I got a call that we all dread in our lives, I think. And that was that my husband had a very serious heart attack, and which led to him passing away. And it was a very surreal moment. And I think, it has been a journey since then that has been pretty difficult. Obviously, that was pretty hard in itself. 3 months later, my father passed away. 2 years or 3 years after, nearly 3 years after Tony passed away, I found myself in hospital having a kidney transplant. And then 4 or 5 months after that, my mum passed away. So it has been a very difficult 6 years, or nearly 6 years. Early on, when I was a bit younger, my brother passed away also. So I have had a pretty lot of burdens to carry. And what I guess I can reflect on is that the topic that you're talking about today, carrying each other's burdens, is very relevant for me. I have had such amazing support through my journey, and I've experienced different types of support from different people, and it has just been overwhelming. Overwhelming in a great sense. I was overwhelmed. I was definitely overwhelmed with the burdens, as you spoke about before. And the support that I've had has also been overwhelming, at times almost hard to accept, actually. I think I have experienced things in different ways. So,
that's the context, and it's a pretty challenging context. And whilst you said you had a lot of folks help you carry that burden, they obviously can't carry the bulk of that weight. That's something you carry. So, but what have people done that have helped relieve the burden a little bit and given you some confidence and courage to take one step after another and back into living a fuller and a lighter life in some way?
Yeah. I mean, I think I probably would classify it into 3 areas. I'll just focus on, when Tony passed away initially. I think initially there was an incredible flood of support, of prayer, of consolation, practical things that people were doing, even financial support from so many different networks of people around me. The generosity shown to me and the kindness was just incredible, from friends, work, friends, colleagues, church, schools that my kids went to, even my own school friends, even tennis club friends and footy team friends, and even actually health practitioners, were coming to my door with things. I know this is the wrong terminology, but I call it my cloud of witnesses. I know that's like a heavenly term, but to me, for those first, say, 6 weeks to 3 months, I felt like I had this massive balloon or bubble or something like that over me. And to me, that was the bubble of prayer and support. I could literally feel it. And naturally and completely understandably, as time goes on, that, maybe the bubble bursts or whatever it is, but the number of people praying diminishes and the support that you get diminishes, but in a timely way. There's a time for that huge number of people showing the support. And then I think secondly, there were those people that have provided me with deep, deep temporary support. And this was a smaller group of people who were close family and friends, and probably a couple of unlikely additional people that I hadn't expected. And I really couldn't have done without them in that time and subsequent times as well. And in my mind, I liken this a little bit to the story of Moses and Hur and Aaron in Exodus 17, when Moses tells Joshua and his men to go out and fight the Amalekites, and that he would go to the top of the hill with the staff of God in his hands. And it says in Exodus 17, verse 10, "So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered. And Moses, Aaron and Hur went to the top of the hill. And as long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning. But whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him and sat on it. Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on either side, so that his hands remained steady until sunset. And Joshua overcame the Amalekites with the sword. And I think I really felt like that. I really felt like there was a group of people around me who were holding up my hands, helping me get through that period of time. And I honestly cannot thank those people enough, and I will be forever grateful. But then as I reflected on this, I realised there's probably a third category of people, and they're the ones who I had deep relationships with before, but because of what we've been through, shared experiences of grief, pain and life circumstances, and actually not just from my end, although for a few years there I thought it was, because of those things, we've been able to be so authentic and vulnerable with each other, and our relationships have moved to a much deeper level. And I'm so grateful for those people in my life who are prepared to continue the hike with me. I also love hiking with them, and sometimes we're hiking through beautiful terrain with flat ground and beside beautiful, peaceful lakes, and other times we come around a corner and we're going up some little hills, and then we might go around another corner and face a pretty steep mountain and have to walk up that together slowly, and, it's really tough. And I think that if we allow him, God uses people like that in our lives, in addition to the Holy Spirit, to form and shape us. And I know that's really been the case with me. I truly believe that these difficult seasons in my life have been the times that have shaped me, and the people I've journeyed with have helped to form and mould me to become more like Jesus. They've cried with me, consoled me, laughed with me, and also given me feedback I maybe didn't want to hear. These people have been anchors for me, and on an ongoing basis, not having a partner to download with or a second parent sometimes, they continue to help me through that journey, giving me wisdom, advice, and sometimes just being a sounding board. So, yeah, I think carrying each other's burdens is an incredible privilege, and one that I have been the beneficiary of.
Well, thank you very much, Melissa, for sharing that, because I imagine that was pretty tough to share. Brings back some hurt and some pain, but also a sense of gratitude as well, as you think about the journey you've been on, and those who've shared in carrying that load with you. And I want to say to our listeners, as you journey through life, stuff happens. Sometimes we kick an own goal. That is, we do stuff, we make decisions, and there are consequences for them. And we find ourselves trapped, like in verse 1, in what Paul's talking about, trapped in a sin or trapped in something that's got us captive. But other times life happens, and it's got nothing to do with sin. It's got to do with just life happening, tragedy happening, suffering, hurt, pain, financial challenges, grief, a whole range of different things, health issues, a lot of things that just weigh us down. And the truth is, if we try and carry these things on our own, it would just be a hard, long slog, and there may lead to absolute hopelessness. And so we have a gift in the church, we have a gift in friends, we have a gift in family, and it is okay. It's okay to let them take some of our gear, to let them take some of the weight, and to help us on the journey. You want to say something, Melissa?
Well, I was just reflecting on the fact that different people process things differently, and today, actually you won't be hearing it on this day, but today as we're recording, it's Are You OK Day. And so I think it's a really great thing to, just check in with the people around you, ask them if they're okay. Sometimes people won't feel like talking about it. I know for me, after Tony passed away, I do remember sending a text or sending a message into work just before I was returning to work. It was about 6 or 8 weeks after Tony passed away, I think. And I remember in my text saying, the one question I will not be able to answer is the question that you will all want to ask me, and that's, how are you? And so I said, if you can just avoid asking me that question for a little while, that would be great. And so it may be that you've got someone in your life that something's happened to, or they're you want to check in with, but maybe that's not the right question to ask. Maybe it's starting with something else. So I'd just encourage people to check in with their friends and family and just be sensitive about how you do it. Obviously, different people process things in different ways, and for me, I'm pretty transparent. I don't hide much, but there's times when you do and you can't hide it, and there's other people that are out there that do want to process things more personally. So hopefully those people have someone that can help carry their burdens as well. But yeah, just wanted to mention that. Thanks,
Melissa. And for those of us where we're in a stage of the journey where life is going pretty well, let's remember that we're called also to live out the rule of Christ in our life. The law of Christ is to love one another, is to help one another. And it doesn't mean surrendering all our time, effort and energy and giving up our own sort of life. It's just those small things, a prayer, a word of encouragement, a bit of food cooked or whatever it may be, a coffee, a listening ear. These things are so valuable for those who just need that extra boost of help in their life. So let's make sure that we're on top of those sort of things as well. My prayer for you is that you may know the love of Christ, that you may know the love of others as they share life's journey with you. And so until next time, may you know the blessings of God. Thank you.